And welcome back to another episode of the Double Dunk Podcast. My name is Brenden D. Thanks so much for tuning in today. We're talking week 10. Not the greatest week, but it's football. We love that. Warren's just got a zin in. He's ready to rock. How you doing?
That's right, buddy. I'm ready to rock and talk football. I don't care what the slate is. If it's a Sunday, I'll be watching it and I'll be able to talk about it.
Well, we'll start off hot. Germans, have fun with this one. New York Giants and the Panthers headed to my home nation, where my dad's from, where my blood is, Germany. They are 6.5-point favorites over Carolina. You want to start this one off?
I'll label this one. This is a divorce type game. If you're somebody who's in a relationship and football, you can normally get the 1 p.m. to like the 8 p.m. and then the late game. That's pretty good. If you're asking for an extra 3 hours to watch this game, it's a pretty tough ask sometimes. So I wouldn't blame anybody who's forced to sit this one out. As for terms of the game, I'm going to take the dog and the points just because close your eyes and say Daniel Jones favored by 6.5. That just, I don't like that. But in a really shit game, I'm just going to take the points plus 6.5.
Yeah, both these teams, of course, was a couple of the worst in the league. The Carolina Panthers got the win last week. Bryce Young, since he kind of took over the starting job, has looked better. He's getting rid of the ball quicker. He's not sitting in the pocket. And if you're betting the Giants, you're hoping this pass rush just kind of causes a ruckus. And the Panthers, 2 wins. They've only had 3 sacks for 18 sack yards lost. So I actually do think the Panthers' offensive line can hold up. They've actually been they've been above average unit this season. That hasn't been the problem. It's been the quarterback play around it. So I'm with you. I'll take the Panthers plus 6.5. But again, don't love it. I'm working 8 to 4 at the office, so I'm on the morning games. So this is going to be my game I'm dialed into, unfortunately. So
all right, I'll look for a greasy prop from you just to make this game interesting.
Oh, my FanDuel account will get hit for this one. Don't you worry about that. Okay, next up, let's talk your team, Warrensy. The New England Patriots on the road take on the Chicago Bears. The Bears are 6.5-point favorites. I have in my notes here as a must-win game for the Bears. If you look ahead of their schedule here, they got the Packers, Vikings, and Lions as the next 3. Your Bears are sitting at 4-4. Over the last 2 weeks, Warrensy, your Bears offense ranks 30th in success rate and 30th in EPA per play. Caleb Williams, at a 27 qualifying quarterbacks the last 2 weeks, is dead last in both those stats, success rate and EPA. It has not looked pretty on the Bears' offensive side of the ball. What is your vibes around your squad heading into Sunday?
Brenden, you just stated some very, very ugly offensive stats.
Yeah, I wanted to get you a little shaken up before we got into this one.
I'm very shaken up right now because I do have a lock in this game, and it's the Chicago Bears minus 6.5. And trust me on this one, people, I have the script. I know exactly what is going to happen. The Bears are going to beat a very bad team like they always do. They beat the teams they should. They dummied the Jags. That was a lock for me. Who'd they play the week before? A bad team. They smashed. It was a lock for me as well.
The Jaguars.
No, the week before the Jaguars, they played somebody else who was a really bad team, and they spanked them. It was a rocking chair cover. It was one of my locks. But then you look at the next 2 weeks, they played competent opponents. They did not look competent. The Bears will win this week very comfortably, and I can guarantee next week they lose by 1 million to the Packers. They are going to build this fan base up for one more week, for one more Packers game. Can this finally be the year? And they are going to lay an egg next week. So maybe a little teaser from a lock next week, but I'm on the Bears this week, and I'm fading them heavy next week.
It was the Carolina Panthers that they beat.
There you go. Yeah. When they play bad teams, they beat them. That's been that's why Eberflus still has this job. He has never been able to step up in class and match a very competent opponent, but I'll give him credit. There's the only hat tip he'll get from me is when he plays competition below the Bears level, they tend to do well. And injury reports looking good for the Bears. They should be getting Montez Sweat back. They had no pass rush to speak of last week. Hopefully Sweat back on the field returns this defense to form.
I saw a stat where the Bears haven't won a road Sunday game under Matt Eberflus.
Yeah. Yeah.
Outstanding. They're at home this week, so it doesn't really come.
Yeah, exactly. You're good.
I took the Bears minus 6.5. I think they can bounce back here. I think they got to get back to run the ball. The Patriots' run defense stinks. They should be able to kind of just get the weight off of Caleb's shoulders a little bit. Something that I didn't notice, Jaquan Brisker is going to miss his 5th straight game due to a concussion. A little scary for that one. I just wanted to bring that up, but I like your Bears pick. I think
they're awfully quiet on him. Kyler Gordon was back at practice today too, so Brisker is a huge question mark, but they are getting some reinforcements on the defense.
All right, the Buffalo Bills on the road. They're 3.5-point road favorites heading into Indianapolis. I don't want to go on a rant about Anthony Richardson. We already did that last week. But and Joe Flacco, something that I didn't bring up last week. I didn't really know the numbers on it, but I was thinking about it. Like the Colts' run offense is just useless without Anthony Richardson because the run game relies on him so much.
I completely butchered my talking point last week when I took the Vikings as one of my locks, and I butchered the stats showing Jonathan Taylor's EPA just completely drops without that zone read option of Anthony Richardson. And they were in third. They were in 2nd and 10, 2nd and 9. Every single drive.
Third and longs against Bradford's defense isn't going to help you. And the numbers here, Taylor's averaging 3.5 yards per carry when it's Joe Flacco. It's 5.3 yards per carry when it's Anthony Richardson. Like that is a huge jump. And the Colts, just like I said, got in 3rd and long situations. They couldn't get out of it. It was the worst success rate and EPA a week for them this season on offense. And the Bills' defense is playing well. Like they're a team that you can't really run on anyways. They're 15th in rushing yards allowed, but they're 6th in EPA and 10th in success rate on the ground allowed. I think the Bills should be able to get after Joe Flacco. I like their pass rush this year. They squeaked out a win last week against the Dolphins, but they were probably the better team for majority of that game. They're 4th in offensive DVOA right now. They have one of the better offenses in the league. This Colts defense is mediocre at best. I like them to cover 3.5 here, but it's not one of my locks.
Right on. A stat that blew me away, knocked my socks off. Josh Allen this year versus zone coverage, 0 touchdown passes. Every single one of his touchdowns this year has been against man coverage. His splits man versus zone this year are unusual to say the least. He is doing far, far better versus man than zone. Colts, you're getting strictly zone. That's the Gus Bradley bread and butter. So it's going to be interesting to see if Josh Allen can buck his early season trends of being poor against zone. And we don't know who's going to be out there at wide receiver for him. Amari Cooper's gotten in a limited at practice today, but Keon Coleman hasn't practiced, so they might be getting Cooper back.
They're both wrist
Coleman.
Injuries, aren't they? I think they're both wrists. It's really weird.
Yeah.
What the hell's going on at practice there?
Yeah, but for the sake of the show, I'm going to take the Colts plus 3.5. Just I could see that back door being open and we're getting the hook, but not a game I have a great feel on. I kind of like the under more than anything, if I'm being honest.
All righty, let's move on. Minnesota Vikings on the road take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Vikings are 7-point road favorites. Warrensy, it looks like we're getting Mac Jones in this one.
I was going to say, that's the reason. There's a reason behind this spread being 7.
T-Law.
What do you think of Mac Jones?
Well, I don't know. What do you against the number 1 DVOA defense in the league? It's like not the best team to go up against in your Jaguars starting debut. So just for some context, Trevor Lawrence has a left shoulder injury. There's been some battling about what's going to happen with this injury, like if he needs surgery or not. It was funny. There was a little bit of a source off today. Jay Gruden tweeted out that he has sources. Like the old Commanders coach, Jay Gruden, tweeted out that he has source that T-Law needs surgery. That Ian Rappaport tweets him, dunks on him, and was like, "There's no surgery scheduled." Just completely shits on Jay Gruden's sources. He apparently is day to day. It doesn't look like he's playing. Ian Rappaport even added to that tweet that it's likely he's not. But like I said, Vikings are the best defense in the NFL, and they're not the great spot for Mac Jones to be in. Do you got anything else on this?
Yeah, I don't have a great feel on this. I'm going to make the Vikings a part of a teaser leg. I'm buying 6 points on it, basically just buying the money line on maybe some parlays, but it's a real tough ask for Mac Jones to play this number 1 ranked defense. And Vikings offense is looking good. It's Cam Robinson revenge game.
Yeah,
big one for the left tackle.
I don't think has an offensive tackle revenge game ever been uttered in NFL podcast history.
But hey, you know what? He could just give his defensive linemen some tips on, hey, they like to do this on snap counts and stuff like that. Just any type of, I think any type of advantage he's going to give the trenches is only going to help the Vikings in an area where they should already dominate the trenches. So I'm going to take Vikings for the show, but not a lock.
I'm going to take Vikings for the show as well. Something that stuck out to me when I was going through NFL Pro today. The Jags have fallen behind 10-plus points in the last 4 games in the first half. This is a team that's just been kind of claw back. Remember last week against the Eagles? Like they were down 22-0
they could be on give-up watch here.
Yeah.
Especially without their quarterback, they could be on give-up watch here.
Like if you're down 10-plus points in the first half with Mac Jones as your quarterback against his defense, good luck clawing your way back. So I'm also on the Vikings -7.5. All right, another road favorite here. The Chiefs on the road take on the Broncos. They're 7.5-point favorites. The Chiefs, sorry. Broncos defense got mollywopped last week. It was ugly. That number 1 defense could not handle Baltimore's offense. The Chiefs offense right now still first in offensive success rate out of all teams. Everyone's bitching and moaning about the deep plays. They got a couple last week against the Bucs defense, but they just like claw you, like it's just like a death by 1,000 paper cuts. Every single offensive drive, teams have had a really hard time like keeping them to short drives this season. But the Broncos defense has been very good outside of last week. Maybe they have a bounce back spot here. What you got?
Yeah, I was early on that last week. I said this Broncos defense is somewhat fraudulent. I do think they're an above average unit, but I kind of expected the Ravens to have their way with them, as the Ravens have been having their way with any defense. So Patrick Mahomes last week against the Bucs, 11 for 11 on third down before he had a drop on his 12th attempt. But as impressive as it is, it's not sustainable. You can't go 11 for 11 passing the ball on third down week in, week out. And even with that being said, they still didn't cover. They didn't cover 2 weeks ago against the Raiders. They didn't cover last week against the Bucs. It's a similar spread, above a touchdown here. So I'm gonna take the Broncos, but you never see me putting hard-earned dollars on Bo Nix. I'll tell you that.
Just to your third down stat, he has a 58.6% success rate on 3rd and 3+ this season. No other quarterback is higher than 38%. He's generated 40.1 EPA on those plays. No other quarterback has generated more than 15.4 EPA. His third down usage, and this is something that is always going to come back down to earth. You brought it up, like it's very unsustainable. Third down success is always very finicky. Like it's never going to sustain like this. But this kind of goes into one more thing I have on the Chiefs. They're just like learning. They just know how to win football games. They've won 8 straight games when trailing at halftime, dating back to last season. And I believe this even go back to 2022.
But they don't cover.
Yeah. The Chiefs,
they win.
The Chiefs defense hasn't allowed more than 28 points since the Super Bowl against the Eagles. Like this defense just doesn't allow 30+ points. Now the Broncos offense is probably not going to do that anyways, but I thought that status was insane. Crazy. I wanted to talk to you about undefeated watch here because they are undefeated for the season. So they got the Broncos coming up. Then the Bills next week. That's the big test on their schedule. Let's say they beat the Bills. Let's say they top the Bills here and they move to 10-0 after they beat the Broncos. The next games are Carolina, Las Vegas, the Los Angeles Chargers, the Cleveland Browns, the Houston Texans, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, it's
now,
on the
I'm
table.
not saying they're going undefeated, but if there was a schedule to do that, it doesn't look it's possible.
This is a team that's won back-to-back Super Bowls. Coming into the year, the number one goal was to be the first team to ever win 3 straight Super Bowls. Mm-hmm. What's their motivation going to be week 17, week 18 if they've already got the number 1 seed clinched? It's hard to say if Patrick Mahomes is even playing in those games. I think I saw on FanDuel it's like a plus 850 bet or something you can make. Those odds aren't good enough for me.
No, it should be like plus 1,500, a little lower than more than that. I'm on the Broncos. I have the same kind of thinking as you. The Chiefs just don't cover these big spreads very often. Raiders backdoor cover last week. We saw the Bucs cover a big spread. So I think the Broncos.
Todd Bowles, we'll wait till we get to the Bucs game. Todd Bowles, my God.
Atlanta Falcons. Another road favorite playing the New Orleans Saints, fresh off Dennis Allen's firing. Darren Rizzi, Wardsy, the Rizzler, is running that team now. They've been loving him so far. There's been a lot of I think Carr at a press conference where he said it was the most fun practice he's had. He was a special teams coach and assistant head coach for under Dennis Allen. I actually called this. I think I texted in our group chat. Like, I think Dennis Allen's canned tomorrow. That was as rock bottom as it gets, losing the Carolina Panthers after you get your starting quarterback back. There obviously were stuff in the media with Michael Thomas. I don't know if you saw this, just absolutely cooking Derek Carr on Twitter. It was a very ugly week for the Saints, but the Saints fans got to be happy. Like, Dennis Allen was not it. He didn't make the playoffs in his 3 seasons there as head coach. They clearly needed a shake up there. They need a whole roster shake up and kind of a look in the mirror moment this offseason. But they got to play a divisional foe, a team that they hate. They get that new coach bump that people always love betting against, like, or betting for? Like, you got a new head coach, you have motivation. I don't know. We'll see. But Warrensy, you got anything to add?
Yeah, the new coach bump, it's kind of a myth. It's against the spread anyways, it's 51%. So it's a little bit of a myth. This year it's 0-1. If you go back to the Jets, their new coach did not give them the new coach bump. But how much more juice do you need in this one? This is your arch rival. This is kind of a sneaky under-the-radar rivalry over the last couple of years, but it's going to look different without Marshawn Lattimore out there this week. And the Saints have so many injuries right now. It's unbelievable. They lost Olave last week. Now you lose Lattimore. I just don't know if the new coach bump and rivalry is enough for this team to overcome a Falcons team that is red hot. They figured out how to run the ball. It feels like it was 7 years ago that we were taught how worried we were week 1 about this Falcons offense against the Pittsburgh Steelers and just how ugly that performance was. Something's clicked for them, and I don't see them slowing down here. So I'm going to take the Falcons minus 3.5.
Yeah, I'm also on the Falcons minus 3.5. I have a lock here. It's going to be a prop. I like Bijan Robinson over 80 rushing yards. You can get that right now, minus 110 on most sports books. The Saints are 25th in rushing yards allowed, 27th in success rate, 28th in EPA. They are one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. This Saints defense got gashed by Saquon Barkley, Javonte Williams, Kareem Hunt. Like, there's been running backs that have had a ton of success. Bijan's also hit this number in 3 of the last 4 games. Since they got Caleb McGarry being healthy for them has really helped that Falcons offensive line. So I like Bijan to have a day here. My first lock is going to be the Falcons running back Bijan Robinson over 80 rushing yards.
Let's go.
All right. We each have a lock in. Up next, speaking of that Tampa Bay Buccaneers team, they're hosting the 49ers, another road favorite. The 49ers are holding 6.5 points over the Bucs. Christian McCaffrey return time. It looks like this is going to make his debut. You've been waiting for this. He's still on your fantasy team, and many fantasy owners have been waiting for this. 49ers fans have been waiting for this. We'll see how healthy and how good he looks. I'll pass the ball to you, Warranty. What you got?
Yeah, so that is the main storyline. Christian McCaffrey is coming back. I have been waiting for this. Super excited, but I want to start on the other side of the ball and talk about the Bucs because I was just so disgusted with Todd Bowles not going for 2, trying to beat Patrick Mahomes there. And I know the players after the game and the interviews, they all said the right things, but how deflating is it leaving that building after that loss, knowing you had a chance to win? And think of the flip side. If they had gone for 2 and lost the game still, I think the vibes in that room are still really high because you can leave that building with your head high and say, hey, we just lost to Patrick Mahomes by 1 point. Like, we gave it our all. So I think in the worst case scenario, you still could have left that building feeling really good. Instead, they left that building not feeling great. And I don't know how that momentum swings. Eventually, it's going to kick in that they don't have Godwin and Evans. Liam Cohen doing a hell of a job. I think he's going to probably – he might be on a short list now after Ben Johnson.
He's on head coach watch.
Yeah. He's going to get some interviews. What he did last week against a really good Chiefs defense, like, he just schemed Cade Otton open all day. It was really, really nice to watch.
Cade Otton, the last 3 games, has 31 targets, 25 catches, and 3 touchdowns.
And teams know he's their biggest threat. And Cohen's still getting the ball and getting them open, which is incredible. All that being said, I'm leaning 49ers here. It's not a lock or anything. And it's because Kyle Shanahan's coming off a bye. He's got extra time to prepare. He's getting his queen back on his chessboard in Christian McCaffrey. So I am going to side with 49ers.
I just wanted to touch on the Todd Bowles thing. I thought that was really disappointing if you're on the Bucks, as you're a Bucks fan. If you're on that team, I thought it was a gross decision. Whenever you have the chance to go for the jugular against the best team in the NFL, you do it. Like, you need 2 yards. If you don't get it, at least you can have your pride that you didn't get it. Like, going into open football with the best team is never a good choice. Like, going to just free football against the best team, or we need 2 freaking yards. I know there were some analytic plays where it says they're going overtime there. The Bucks had a long drive. Maybe they were tired. But if you asked 11 players on the team, the 11 starting offensive players on that team, they would have all of them would have said, let's go for it. So you're going against the decision of the quarterback and everyone there.
The way I look at it is, ask a Chiefs fan, ask anybody who was in that building at Arrowhead, what do you want them to do? Mm-hmm. It would have been a unanimous, please kick this extra point. So.
Yeah. I thought that was a nasty work from Todd Bowles as well. I'm going to put in a lock here. It's going to be George Kittle, 60 receiving yards over. You can find that around minus 105 odds everywhere. The Bucks can't stop tight ends. They've allowed the second most receiving yards to opposing tight ends. They're 4th in fantasy points allowed to opposing tight ends. George Kittle's has 210 receiving yards over his last 2 games. He's hit 60-plus receiving yards in 3 of his last 4. The one game he didn't, he had 58 receiving yards, so he was right there. Christian McCaffrey back. They're going to be focused on the run. It opens the play action over the middle. I think George Kittle is going to be very active in this game. 60 isn't a ton for him, so that's going to be my second lock of the week.
I like it. All
right. Fun game here. The Pittsburgh Steelers on the road to take on the Washington Commanders. The Commanders are 2.5-point home favorites. I'll pass the ball to you. I think this might be game of the week.
Yeah, this is a really good looking game. I rode with the public hard last week. It was a very square pick, but I took Washington minus 3.5. Vegas always knows something because it comes down to a 2-point conversion at the end of the game. Ball goes our way. This line feels a little bit shady again to me. It's sitting at 2.5. Every single time it touches 3, Steelers money comes in. It's gone up to 3 a couple times, but it was at 3.
It was at 3.5 on Monday. It's
and
coming down.
I don't think you'll see the 3.5 again, but every time it gets to 3, Steelers money comes in. I'm loving this Washington Commanders team. These are 2 teams I have in opposite ends of my power rankings. I know what the Steelers' record is, but I still think they are a fraudulent unit. If you look at their strength of schedule, their defense has faced the easiest opposing schedule of offenses. And you even dig deeper into that. Like I brought up the Kirk Cousins Week 1 game. You got to take into consideration that Falcons offense compared to what they are now. And you also have to look at Justin Herbert left a game early due to an ankle sprain. So their schedule of offenses is the easiest to begin with. And then if you dig even deeper, it gets easier. This Washington Commanders offense, they're second in EPA per play, and it's not fluky whatsoever. This offense is the real deal. I think they're going to move the ball. I'm riding with the Commanders here, minus 2.5. It's not a lock for me. It probably would be my 4th favorite pick of the week. What scared me off is Mike Tomlin's trends. In his career, he's 26-6 versus rookie quarterbacks. Now, Jaden Daniels, he's a different breed. He's a different rookie quarterback. He might not fit that stat, but it is a veteran coach going against a rookie quarterback. And also, Mike Tomlin's 4-0 in his last 4 bye weeks. So Tomlin scared me off it, but I do lean Commanders pretty heavy.
Okay, I was actually thinking the other side here. This was like the first or second lock that kind of didn't make it. I like the Steelers plus 2.5 in this spot. I think this defense is a good matchup against Washington's offense. Washington leads the league in no huddle offense this season on yards, EPA, success rate, any stat you can find. Daniels is first in EPA as a quarterback in no huddle. The Steelers defense is first in EPA per play against no huddle. Marshawn Lattimore doesn't look like he's going to play for Washington. I think the Steelers offense just matches up really well. Run the ball and play action. That's kind of what they've been living and dying with Russell Wilson. Washington's run defense is 28th in success rate and 30th in EPA per play allowed on run defense. I think it's a bad matchup for the Commanders. That 2.5 really bugged me. It's kind of why I just didn't lock it in. Like, I could see the Commanders winning this by a field goal. Definitely think that's in the realm of outcomes. But I don't know. I think the Mike Tomlin underdog thing, I think the Steelers keep this one close. Interesting number for Mr. Total Guy over there. This is the 45.5
I like the over.
45.5 point total, Warrensy. It's the highest of any Steelers game this season and the second highest dating back the last 2 years. So Steelers have not been a high total team, and this one is pretty high for them.
Yeah, I still like the over there. I almost called them their old name. Any Commanders game, I'm going to be looking at the over.
All right, that's it for the 1 o'clock game, so we'll take a quick break, and we'll be back on the other side.
The Double Doink Podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. Life is hard. It's especially hard when you don't have someone you can open up to. Not everyone is comfortable talking to their friends and family about their personal matters or anything that is bothering them on a day-to-day basis. Mental health is so important to continued success in this world. Therapy is a great way to regroup and get everything off your chest. Insert BetterHelp. BetterHelp is the largest online therapy service, 100% online. They will match you with professional licensed therapists you can trust. You can talk with your therapist however you see fit, via text, phone call, or video chat. BetterHelp has successfully helped over 4 million people worldwide deal with their day-to-day mental health issues. Use the link in the podcast description to get 10% off your first month at BetterHelp.
And we're back on the Double Doink Podcast, talking the 4 o'clock games and the 2 night games. The Tennessee Titans on the road to take on the Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers 7.5 point road favorites. Looks like Will Levis is going to start for the Titans in return. He was a full participant in practice today. They've been saying if he's healthy, he's going to play. So we'll get some good meme action, at least from this game. Will Levis is bound to do something stupid. What you got, Warrensy?
Yeah, so Will Levis being back, I don't really know what that does to the spread. I don't think it moved it whatsoever. I want to start with the Chargers and just say, God, I'm so jealous Jim Harbaugh is not the coach of the Chicago Bears. I don't know why part of me before the year doubted he could change the culture of that Chargers team so quickly. I thought it was going to take more than one season to really, inflict the Harbaugh way, but it's working. He's got that both sides of the ball humming, and it starts with the trenches. I think that they absolutely dominate the trenches in this game on both sides of the ball, and I don't see how the Chargers slow down here. Titans are a team going in the wrong direction. They got good news on Will Levis on their injury report, but they got bad news on Tony Pollard and L'Jarius Sneed. They both missed practice today, and I don't know if I think they're trending towards not playing this week. So I like fading bad teams after they win a game. I like going the wrong way, and we have that in this situation. So I wish it wasn't 7.5, but I'm going to take Chargers minus 7.5.
Yeah, the Titans, like you said, gone in the wrong direction. Tony Pollard has actually been phenomenal for them this season. He's been one of the best free agent signings out of like all the free agent running backs have been doing great. Like Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, Tony
Jerry?
Pollard.
Did you hear that, Jerry?
Exactly. And like it's free agent running backs have been thriving this year. The Los Angeles Chargers, they're first in EPA per play on defense, second in success rate. That unit's been doing really well. I think Justin Herbert is kind of becoming underrated this season. Like he's been playing really good football, especially with what's around him. Like loving what I'm seeing from him. He had that absolute dart to Quentin Johnson last week. He's playing phenomenal. And you brought up the Chargers coaching. Like they're just a really well coached team. They're third in total penalties per game. Like they're solid on special teams. They just do all the little things well. So I'm going to take the Chargers.
And the Titans don't.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the Chargers minus 7.5. I don't love it. Like something stinks with this one a little bit. If you look at the Chargers schedule going forward, we're going to find out a lot about this team after this week. They play the Cincinnati Bengals, Baltimore Ravens, Atlanta Falcons, and Kansas City Chiefs in their next 4 games. So that easy schedule kind of takes a turn after this week. So like, is there maybe like a little bit of a look ahead? I don't know. That hook freaks me out, but I'll take the Chargers minus 7.5.
I like it.
All right. Next up, the New York Jets are road favorites, 1.5 points, taking on the Arizona Cardinals. Jets obviously get their big win, and over the Houston Texans. They're feeling themselves. If they get another win here, they could be in the playoff hunt, especially if the Bengals lose on Thursday Night Football. So like their season isn't over yet. The Arizona Cardinals on the other side of the ball whooped your boys last week. They got a 46% pressure rate against the Bears last week. It was a team high, kind of coming from everywhere. 12 different Arizona Cardinals defensive players got to pressure in that one. They make the trade for Barrett
Crazy.
Browning this week. They're in the hunt in the NFC West. I think they're actually first right now if like the season was to end today in that division. So this is a big game for both teams. What are you looking at with Aaron Rodgers versus Kyler Murray?
This is a game I'm so torn on. The spread being at 1.5, I think, is right where it should be. It's a true coin flip for me. I kind of lean the over, if anything, and it's because I think both offenses have clear paths to success. The Arizona Cardinals run game last week was damn impressive versus the Bears. They whooped the Bears in the trenches, and this year that's been how you beat the Jets. They've been getting bullied in the run game. Also really poor against scrambling quarterbacks. I could see Kyler Murray having a big day with his legs, which is something he hasn't had to really do yet. But his props haven't been listed yet, so stay tuned for those later in the week. And on the other side of the ball, I think Devontae Adams and the New York Jets have a really good matchup through the air. Cardinals have really struggled for slot receivers. They're dead last in the NFL and in terms of wide receiver route yards per route run against the slot. And Devontae Adams has been using the slot. His role in the slot has been increasing each week. So I like Devontae Adams props this week. And I think Garrett Wilson will even get some routes out of the slot. Whoever it is out of the slot, I think has success. So I lean over more than anything in this game. I guess I'm going to take the home underdog. I have more favorites this week than I do dogs. So I'm going to mix in a dog, but I want nothing to do with this spread.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, we're on other sides here. Well, not other side. Like we have the same pick, but I actually got my third lock here. I'm going to take the Arizona Cardinals plus 1.5. I'm not buying the Jets' resurgence. I think their season's toast after this week. The Cardinals' run offense is such a good matchup against this Jets' run defense. The Cardinals' run offense is 5.6 yards per carry in between the tackles. The Jets are 29th in EP per play allowed on runs in between the tackles. I think it's a big James Conner day. You know what I found interesting on FanDuel? 2+ touchdowns. Trey Benson has the same odds as James Conner. It sounds like Vegas is thinking that Trey Benson can have a heavy usage in this one. He scored a touchdown last week. The only Cardinals running back that didn't score a touchdown last week was James Conner. D. Mercado, I think that's how you pronounce his name, got in the end zone on that end of the half play. Run. Yeah, just brutal stuff from the Bears. But I'm liking what I'm seeing from this Cardinals team right now. I know I've been kind of saying they're a roller coaster team and hard to get a read on, but I'm going to take a swing on them this week. I think the home underdog, like I don't know why. I think the Cardinals should be at least 1.5 or 2 point favorites in this one. I think Vegas has this one a little bit wrong. Just back up to your Kyler Murray thing. I can find some props. He's plus 40 rushing yards. He's plus 185. I was looking at that.
Oh, I like that.
So I think he could, and like you can go up to like plus 53 or plus 310. Like his odds are pretty low right now if you think he's going to run a lot. But I'm going to lock in Arizona Cardinals plus 1.5 as my final lock.
Great.
You do have 2 locks on the board?
I still have 2 locks to go, brother.
Right. There we go. All right. Philadelphia Eagles, my birds. It's Cowboys week. It doesn't have the same juice with Dak Prescott out.
Nowhere near the same juice.
Yeah, like the fans aren't even going at each other on Twitter this week. Like it hasn't had the same
Do
level.
Eagles fans actually feel bad for Cowboys fans right now?
I don't think so. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't think they ever will. It will pick up by Friday. Like, I think Friday you'll start seeing some shit get thrown around on Twitter. Like, this is usually my favorite week just from the social media content space at being heavy on Eagles Twitter. But it's Cooper Rush time in Dallas. I feel like I don't know if this is a hot take, but I don't really see the point of starting Cooper Rush. Why not just go with Trey Lance and see what you have in him? Like if he does play well, you could trade him for something.
He's at least a little harder to game plan for because you have to worry about the run.
They traded a 4th-round pick from like a high-level pick. Why not? Like, isn't this the time? Yeah. Isn't this what you're doing it for?
Your season's done.
Yeah, exactly. Why not give it a shot? So I don't really get the Cooper Rush thing. Like he's 5-1 as a starter, but if you look back at the games when he was a starter in 2022, the Cowboys had the best pass defense in the NFL during that stretch. Like their defense was the best in the league. And right now, it's not. The Cowboys arguably have one of the worst, if not like. Their defensive rankings are atrocious. They can't stop anyone. If you're just looking at DVOA right now, they're 25th. They're the same kind of thing on the offensive side of the ball. CeeDee Lamb's going in this game a little banged up. Now, Micah Parsons is on track to play. He did practice for a second straight day. So can he cause havoc against the Eagles? Fred Johnson's a little banged up on the as the Eagles starting left tackle. He's a limited participant today in practice, so we'll see. I'm eyeing that Eagles offensive line situation, but I'll pass the ball. I'll get your look on this as an outsider.
Yeah, just to finish on that injury report, a big name did pop up too. Zach Martin hasn't practiced yet this week. He's been the long stable guard for the Cowboys. But
quickly to interrupt on that, I was talking about this on trade deadline day with my work. Why not trade him? Like, why wasn't he a guy that you could have got value for? I get he's a long time, he's like a legend there, but he felt like a very his contract expires at the end of this year. It just felt like a very easy trade move. Anyways, go on.
Maybe he's walking into Canton, right? It's tough to trade those guys.
The Texans would have given up anything for that guy.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? He wouldn't have to go very far either, but.
Yeah, in terms of the game, I think it's Philadelphia or pass. Dallas can't stop the run whatsoever. Like, how does Saquon Barkley? The only way he's not getting yards is if it's somebody else because he's on the bench and the game's out of reach. And the Cowboys on the other side cannot run the ball an absolute lick. It's one of the worst run games I've seen in years. And if you're putting Cooper Rush in obvious throwing situations, it's not going to go well. I think Dallas is getting too much respect at that number at 7. I was close to taking the Eagles. I have my 2 other locks are still remaining, but I do like Eagles -7 here. And this is a rivalry game. I don't think Sirianni is going to call off the Hounds. I think if they're up 20 in the third, I think he's going to want 30. He's going to want 40. I could see this being a really ugly game.
Yeah, so if you look at the Eagles' schedule, like haven't played very tough teams. Like they're 6-2. This was kind of like the stretch before the season you were looking at going, this is the hardest part. Like especially with Washington playing well now. Like they have the Cowboys now, which would have been a very circle game on the schedule before the season, right? With if Dak Prescott was playing, then you have the Commanders, Rams, Ravens coming up. So this Eagles team has a hard stretch. Or they may be overlooking this one a little bit. But I wanted to talk about
it's Cowboys.
Yeah, exactly. And the one thing is too, the Eagles have struggled on the road against Dallas. I think the Dallas has won 4 straight of these games at home. But yeah, Dak's not playing. Dak has always cooked Eagles. Like he loves seeing Philadelphia on the schedule. So
right. A.J. Brown is expected to be back,
He's
right?
been a full participant in practice. He's going to play. Devonta Smith didn't practice Wednesday, but he was limited today with a hamstring. Doesn't sound like it's serious. So it sounds like it's Fred Johnson's the one on mine because that would be their 3rd offensive tackle if he can't play. But there hasn't been a lot of reporting, so it sounds like he's going to go. Just quickly, on the Eagles, some stuff I want to point out. I think Jalen Hurts is playing maybe some of the best football of his career over the last 4 weeks. 1,001 total yards, 12 touchdowns. He's completing 73.5% of his passes, 0 turnovers. He's 4-0 during that 4-game stretch. Like, he's looked great, and he's first in EPA during that stretch. I really like what I'm seeing from my quarterback right now. And just the Eagles' defense, Warranty, do you know where they rank in DVOA right now?
Ooh, good question. Tell me they're sneaking into that top 10.
They're
I'll go
10th, baby. They're 10th on the board. The Eagles have a top 10 defense right now. If you told me that was possible before the year, I would have laughed in your face. They have the 13th offensive DVOA ranking. So they have right now their DVOA ranking is better on defense than offense. I thought that. I can't wrap my head around that. And it's mainly because those Georgia guys are playing really good football over the last 4 games. So since the bye week, they've combined Nakobe Dean, Jalen Carter, and Nolan Smith have combined for 51 tackles, 7.5 sacks, and 16 pressures. Those guys, those draft picks are starting to pan off. You saw Nakobe Dean have that interception last week. I know that the score last week, like it was 28-23, and the Eagles almost let it go. But like you had that fumble play. Did you get a look at that fumble and what happened there? And
I actually still haven't seen it. I was driving and listening to it on the radio. And listening to the radio broadcasters trying to explain this play I felt bad for them because they're like, he was touched and he went down and it is a fumble. And they just kept trying to explain it. And I'm like, what is going on?
I still don't understand it. Like let's say he didn't fumble and he got up and started running, they wouldn't have allowed him to get up and start running. Like that's what makes this play so crazy. And that happened. Like the Eagles, like I think Sirianni's getting a little too much heat in the media this week about his decision making. I hated the play call in the 4th and 1 inside Jaguars territory. Outside of that, I would have went for 2 every single time. The decision making and the execution can be separated, and I just don't think the Eagles executed on those plays very well. But the game was closer than I thought. I'm going to take the Eagles -7 here, but. So my brain's a little haywire with this one. I don't know. I'm expecting to be a little closer. All right, Sunday Night Football. Maybe second game of the week outside of Steelers Commanders, the Detroit Lions are 3.5-point road favorites taking on the Houston Texans. Now, there was a lot of reporting over the last 2 weeks that this would be Nico Collins' return. It doesn't look like that. He hasn't practiced Wednesday. He did not practice Thursday. So it looks like Houston's going into this game, again, without their 2 top wide receivers. Lions are playing they look like arguably the best football team in the league right now, heading into Houston Week 10. Warren Z, what you got?
Yeah, I have 2 locks left, and there's 2 games left. And who do you think I'm going to take in this game, Brenden?
I don't know. It's a very big surprise.
I have been riding the Detroit Lions this year, and if anybody else has, they're doing well. If you were blind and you just walked to the window and said, "Give me the Lions 8 times this week," you'd be 7-1 right now. You'd be enjoying your life. They're the best team in the NFL right now against the spread. The stat that's been going around the last couple of weeks and is continuing is just crazy that over the last 6 weeks, they have more touchdowns than incompletions. They've been playing with their food. This offense is off the charts. They can beat you on the ground with their elite run game. And when Jared Goff throws, he just doesn't miss. Like, his completion percentage is through the roof. They can beat you in so many ways. And specifically this Houston Texans defense, it is really, really built off getting pressure. If they don't get pressure, they get torched. Lions don't give up pressure.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Jerry's going to have a very clean and comfortable pocket. Last week, Jerry blew me away. The rain, the weather, the bad conditions in Lambeau. That used to be game over for Jerry. Not this year, but he returns back indoors where he's even more comfortable. I don't really even need to give you reasons to bet the Lions. Just bet the Lions.
I have that in my notes. Like, I just can't bet against them. Like, I have to take the Lions kind of going forward right now. I liked the Packers a lot last week, and the Lions proved to be like, doesn't matter where the fuck we play. It could be dome, could be outside,
like
could be a hurricane.
Yeah,
we're just built for this shit. Like, that was a really impressive win to go on the road, especially with all the injuries that were piling up on defense. Brian Branch kicked out of the game. They just shut the Packers offense down, one of the better offenses in the league. They made Love look bad, especially in the red zone. Like, the Packers offense was a mess in the Lions territory last week. And the Lions defense continues to hum without Aiden Hutchinson. They're 5th in EPA per play right now on defense. They just got Zadarius Smith at the trade deadline. Love that move. Zadarius Smith is still playing good football at 32 years old. And the Texans offense, Warren Z, 23rd in DVOA right now. This is like a bottom 10 offense. It's the biggest shocker to me of any unit in the league. If you told me that CJ Stroud and the Texans offense would be sitting at 23rd heading into Week 10, I would have laughed in your face. It's baffling me that Bobby Slowick cannot get this offense going. Now, a lot has to do with the offensive line issues, but I feel like Bobby Slowick was getting head coaching looks last year. And like now, like he's not getting an interview. He might not even have a job after this. Like it's been very bad coach unit. I like the Lions -3.5. I'm on board with your lock.
Nice. And I like the shout out to Aaron Glenn in this defense. Since the Hutchison injury, their pressure rate has stayed the same.
Mm-hmm.
They have blitzed a bit more. So Aaron Glenn, he notices, okay, we don't have our stud pass rusher. How are we going to get pressures different ways? He's blitzing more, and the unit is stayed elite. So give me the Lions.
Do you know Aiden Hutchinson's still tied for the league lead in pressures with 50 right now?
That's sickening.
We got robbed with a very good season from him, Defensive Player of the Year season. All right, well, Monday night game, you still have one lock left. Dolphins at Rams -1.5. I know where you're going with this one.
I am. And so last week I was on the Rams, and hand up, that was an incredibly lucky pick. I can say this year we've been burned by some bad luck, so it was nice to get lucky. And if you watched the Rams-Seahawks game last week, you know that Geno Smith and the Seahawks reached the Rams red zone goal line inside the 10-yard line 3 different times, and that resulted in Rams +7 on the scoreboard. It was incredibly lucky.
Cam Kitchens, my draft crush, coming to life, man. He won Defensive Player of the Week this week as a rookie. He's been awesome. That 103-yard return. The Seahawks offense, I know they're not playing this week, but their red zone offense has been putrid over the last 2 weeks, especially Buffalo and the Rams. It's been a bad look for Seahawks fans.
But the angle last week for me taking the Rams was when Kyron Williams, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, and Matt Stafford are all on the field. This Rams has been a top 3 offense going back over the last 2 seasons. Puka gets ejected for throwing a pillow before halftime. I couldn't believe he got ejected from the game. But like enough about last week. We got lucky. I think this offense is back on track this week against a Dolphins team that I think they're in limbo. I don't know where their head is at right now. They just gave their absolute best effort to try to beat the Bills. They couldn't do it. They got to be looking in the mirror right now and saying, "Guy, our best just isn't good enough." So Monday night, give me the Rams -1.5.
Yeah, I thought the Dolphins should have been sellers at the deadline. Calais Campbell could have got a nice juicy pick for him. He's playing out unreal this season. I don't know why they didn't at least try to unload some cheap
Good
contracts. Guy. Yeah, it didn't really make sense to me. Rams are 5th in offensive success rate this year, even with all those injuries. Like even this is the whole year. This team hums on offense. They're 3-0 since the bye week, Warrensy, averaging 26 points per game. They're only allowing 18.3 points per game during that stretch. That Brandon Fisk, Jared Verse back-to-back duo picks in the first and second round is looking really good. Verse has been playing unbelievable football.
Versus handout versus a guy on the draft I was a big miss on.
Yeah.
I did not like him coming out of college. I thought he needed time. I thought at best he would be a project for a couple of years. He has hit the ground running and been a force for that D-line.
And the Dolphins' offensive line isn't very good. I think it's funny, like they look so good at Florida State together. It just transferred so nicely into the NFL. It's a cool story.
Yeah.
Both those teammates there. So I also like the Rams -1.5. I actually knew you were going to lock this one in as one of yours, going back to back here. I think the spread's a little too low. I don't really. It's as close as going to be a lock for me as well. All right, so Warrensy, we went 5-1 combined on locks last week. I should have brought this up at the top of the show. AJ Brown got hurt for me. That was a tough one. But you went 3-0. I went 2-1. So let's continue this rolling. Why don't you recap what your 3 locks are?
Yeah, I went 3-0 last week, taking 3 favorites, which is normally not my way to go, but I'm going back to it. I'm taking 3 favorites again. Give me the Bears -6.5. Give me the Detroit Lions -3.5. And Monday night, give me the Rams -1.5.
All right, my 3 locks are Bijan Robinson over 80 rushing yards, George Kittle over 60 receiving yards, and my last lock is the Arizona Cardinals +1.5 against the New York Jets. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. We appreciate it. Make sure to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button there. Wherever you listen to your audio podcast, give us a like and subscribe there as well. And we will talk to you later.